This is First Contact, Stories of the Call Center. One thing that every salesperson has experienced, in my opinion, at some point is a slump, right? It's a mental slump or an actual output slump, right? Where they've allowed it to impact their ability to perform. What are some recommendations within the contact center and sales in general, leadership, whatever it is, when you hit those slumps, what are some things you can do to get back on the horse?
Well, there's a couple of reasons that usually trigger slumps, but it's really basic. And I spend a lot of time with organizations going through this. And funny side note too, is I have actually in every organization that I've worked with internally and then now as a consultant, I will actually build a timeline for when agents will hit slumps. You'd think slumps are random, but if you look at it, and we can look at the stats, you can actually predict when an agent is going to hit a slump based on common human behaviors, and it's pretty fun. And then you can see how often it's going to occur, and then you can mitigate it with training and management. One of the biggest reasons why slumps happen is because the agents stop doing what they were doing that worked, and they start going into professional mode. But this time I'm using air quotes with professional because I don't really mean it. What it means is this salesperson goes into the, wait, I don't need to ask you any more questions. I already know what I'm selling. I know I've heard all the objections. I've heard all the reasons why people might want to buy. I don't really care about you anymore because I just know, and I'm so good that I'm just going to tell you. Right? I'm just going to tell you everything about us. I'm going to tell you why you need it, and I'm going to tell you why you should buy it. And then I'm just going to assume that you want. And that's not what people want. They want a process. They want to be treated like a human and go through this path. And again, they want a guide. They don't want a lecture. And so what happens is salesperson hits that point in their career where they think they know everything. And then they're dangerous. And then they hit a slump. Best way to fix that, go back to the basics. Usually what I've found in the contact center space is I pull, and this is, old school with paper scripts. I go into their drawer and it's usually underneath all their snacks and it's really stained and dirty. And I pull out their script that they made all their little notes on and doodles and hearts and whatever while they were bored on phone calls. And I take that and I put that on their desk or I print up a new one and I say, go back to the basics. When you were new, you were crushing it out of the gate and you didn't know anything better than what I told you would work, right? Here's the formula. Within moments, sometimes the very next call, they go back to the script, they're kind of upset, but they listen to me anyway. The openness that I talked about earlier that we're recruiting for. And then what happens is they make that deal happen. And I say, just do that. Don't get fancy. Just stick with what I know that I know works. And when a slump is coming, just remind people, take it back. And it's the same thing. We look at sports. Why does slumps happen in sports? Because people aren't doing that. Batter isn't doing what they were doing before, and they forgot those basics. It's about getting back to the basics and just following their formula.
It makes me think of two things, slow down to go faster, right? People get in the fast lane because they got really good at something, and they're just like myopic now, right? They got the blinders on. It's my way now on this highway. But then what you realize is like, oh, I keep missing the exit. Oh, I'm inefficient now. I'm bumping, into the guardrails or whatever else that's going on because you're realizing that it's about you and not about both people in any interaction, especially if it's, a one-to-one interaction. But you have to sometimes slow down and realize, oh, I've outpaced, I've moved out of lane. I'm not aware anymore because it's all me. I'm the best person. I'm the one that knows how to do something, right? And then the flip side goes to going back and saying, managing to that, being aware, like you said, that this is going to happen, knowing when it probably will happen, what's causing it, hopefully to reduce the likelihood of it happening. But when and if it does happen, because human nature is at some point, we get used to doing things, but then sometimes we're the smartest person in the room and we know best. And ultimately, if that means what you're doing isn't innovative, new, and better, then you're probably doing something that's creating that slump and that detriment, which is a challenge for a lot of people to manage. So from a leadership perspective, any ideas of how leaders can help manage that to reduce the likelihood of people actually getting into their slumps in the first place? Because going back to the basics sounds pretty simple.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing. One is building a model. It's never going to be exact because people are all different. But if you look at enough of your historical data of your sales performance, especially people who started out well, and again, this whole principle, which I dive into a lot more when I do training with leaders, I think this fully explains beginner's luck. Beginner's luck is when you don't know what you're doing, you just kind of listen to others and you go with it, and then you start thinking you're smarter. It's the same reason why I don't play poker, because if I do, in the beginning I do really well, and then I get in my head and I think I'm smarter than everyone else, and it never works out well. So for leaders and managers, one is to build that model to have an approximate time. Number two is understanding that the solution to that is getting people back to the basics. Number three would then be, okay, who can I use? Training, trainers, HR, whoever can help me in those approximate timelines to do more training, to help people. And then I think the last thing is to understand that slumps are going to happen. And it's not just a one-time thing. It will happen to every rep over and over and over again, as long as they're in sales. So it's not a one-time thing. It's not a, hey, I dipped this and now I got it and now I see the matrix. It's a constant thing because it's life. The key is understanding, do everything you can to minimize the trough of the slump so that it's not as damaging. Because the problem is when it's a hardcore slump, you need your rep doing 10 sales a week. They did 0 this week. They do 0 next week, they're done. They might not have the mental ability to pull themselves out of that because that's so tough. Like there's only 2 ways. There's up or there's out of the organization. And so how can you lessen that? It's not, they can't ever go from, they're not going to always be a 10 to 6, 10 to 5, and then back up. How do you make those shallow? How do you catch it as early as possible and get people back on track? That is really the key. But also remember, it's an ongoing thing. It will never stop. Every salesperson will hit a slump over and over again.